Hi everyone, today's video is very much requested, and that is a video explaining my thyroid illness, my journey, what's worked for me, what hasn't. All of the resources that have helped me are here. Many of you have written to me saying you're suffering from this. As a matter of fact, quite a number of you have hypothyroidism or are dealing with a thyroid issue. So I hope this video not only helps you, but gives you some things that you might not have thought of. Because let me tell you, I struggled for a very, very, very long time, several years, and thought there was no hope in sight. I was not getting better, but there are some tricks that I finally discovered that I hope help all of you. This is a bit long, as I said, but I'm going to give you my whole story and journey, and then at the end, after that, tell you all what has worked for me. If you didn't know, first of all, your thyroid is a gland situated about here that affects pretty much every aspect of you. Your hormones, the way you feel, the way you put on weight, the way your muscles work. It pretty much affects everything. And hypothyroidism, which is the one I suffered from, is an underactive thyroid. Sometimes people have hyperthyroidism, meaning their thyroid is overactive. But I have the hypo, which is underactive thyroid. My problem started back in 2010. I was 20 years old and I was dancing Aurora for the first time. I got cast for my very first Aurora. It was a huge, huge deal. And it was in about February that I debuted, and I started having, it all started with muscle weakness. I felt like my legs were giving out a little bit, which at the time I didn't really think anything of because I was dancing Aurora, which is the hardest role in the entire classical repertory. It's definitely super, super challenging. And I just thought, well, I'm not strong enough. I'm not, I can't do this. So I didn't really think anything of it. Fast forward about 3 months to May, and Peter Martins was doing a new ballet on several of us. It was very, very exciting. It was the first time he had picked me to just completely choreograph on. I had done his new ballets in the past, but I was always second cast or third cast or something. So this was a huge deal. I was dancing with Chase Finley, who was like the new big male star at the time. And so we were very, very excited. We were in rehearsals 6 to 8 hours a day, and I started putting on weight. And it didn't really make sense to me because if you're dancing 6 to 8 hours a day, you're rehearsing, and then you're performing at night, I didn't have time to sit around and do nothing. And I was putting on weight so rapidly that you would have thought I was doing nothing but sitting on the couch and eating all day long. That's how quickly I started putting on weight. And I also started getting so tired, I could barely get through a rehearsal day. And the scariest thing was that my hair started falling out. I remember having a performance of Romeo and Juliet and going to the hairdresser. We have, when you do a principal role, the hairdresser does your hair, and he did the braids and everything. And he looked at my hair and he said, I have nothing to braid. You have lost half the hair since the last time, half your hair since the last time you danced this role. So that was terrifying. And I just remember running my fingers through my hair, and just clumps were coming out. It was really, really scary. I thought I'm dying or something. So between the weight, the tired feeling, and the hair falling out, I didn't know what was happening to me. And I remember being in rehearsals and Peter pulling me aside and saying, you're putting on weight. Do you realize it? Of course I realized it. And I remember it just got so bad that 3 times in 1 week they told me I was putting on weight. And I just said to them, I'm barely eating. I'm here dancing 10 hours a day. I don't have time to eat that much. So it was just such a bizarre situation. So I will admit I starved some of it off as much as I could for the premiere. Did the premiere. It was fine. Still didn't look how I wanted to. And then we did our annual tour to Saratoga. That was spring season, June-ish. July we went to Saratoga. And I remember getting cast in 2 ballets that I'd always wanted to do. 𝐕𝐢𝐝𝐿𝐼 number 15, I was one of the principals, and In the Night by Jerome Robbins. Huge, huge dream role of mine. And I remember getting the migraine of all migraines and just not being able to function. And just, I had to pull out of 𝐕𝐢𝐝𝐿𝐼 15 because I could barely get out of bed. But I had no understudy in the night. So I remember Tyler Engel, who was probably my most frequent partner at New York City Ballet, dragging me around the stage. I barely remember doing the ballet, but I had no choice. I had no understudy. So after that performance, I went into the office just in tears saying, this is not working for me. I don't know what my problem is. I am putting on weight as if I was just eating all day long. I can barely stand up. I can't see. My hair is just completely falling out. I need to go to the doctor and leave. I can't keep doing this. So they said, of course, you know, go to the doctor. So I went in and they tested me for mononucleosis. Also in Europe, I think in Europe it's called glandular fever, because that seemed to be what I had, considering I was depressed and tired and couldn't function. But then it turns out they did a full blood panel on me, and it turns out it was hypothyroidism. Basically, my thyroid gland was essentially non-functioning. That's how bad it was. So the doctor said to me, because your thyroid affects everything, including your muscles, stop dancing for a while, because my muscles at that point had started to disintegrate, and I had barely any strength. And he said, you know, when you're in this situation, you could potentially get injured. So he didn't want me to be sick and injured at the same time. So he said, let's stop dancing for now. We'll start you on some very low dose thyroid medication, and we'll see how it goes. Fast forward 2 years, nothing worked. I was still the same situation. I could not lose weight no matter what I did. I could not get any better. I was taking a 2-hour nap every afternoon and then still at 8 o'clock be just completely wiped. 2 years of this, when in fact, and some of you suffering from thyroid problems might have this issue, that the blood work panel looked fine. The numbers looked fine, but nothing was working. You know, I knew my body, I knew something still wasn't right, even though the statistics said, oh, it looks fine. It wasn't right. I would keep, during that 2 years, I would keep trying to get back to the stage. And I would go in and talk to Peter, and he'd say, okay, well, we'll give you this and we'll try, and I'd be in rehearsals, and then I'd have to pull out. Or I'd get cast for something, and then I couldn't do it because I couldn't fit in the costume. So it was just this constant battle back and forth. I was still in the company, I was still dancing, I was still very much a soloist with the New York City Ballet, but I just wasn't on the stage. I took class every day, I just couldn't handle it. So then one day, and this is the kind of thing I haven't really talked about, people said, how did you leave the company or whatever? Things started looking better, so they cast me as Hermia in A Midsummer Night's Dream, which is one of the two lovers. If you've ever seen the ballet, she's the one in blue. She has the solo, and she's the one that Lysander is in love with, and then Demetrius, and it goes back and forth. She's the one in the blue. And I was very, very excited. I'd always wanted to dance this part. And I learned it. I learned the whole thing. I was actually going to dance with Chase Finley again. And things were fine, except couldn't keep getting the weight off. I still wasn't there. So I remember Peter coming into a rehearsal and watching me one day. He said nothing. That's his thing. He just sits there and doesn't say anything. And it was the solo. And afterwards he said, let's go talk in my office. And I said, okay. And he sat me down, and I've heard horror stories about the way dancers have been treated there or whatnot. They were always incredibly kind to me. Peter didn't give me grief. He didn't say whatever. He just said, so how are you feeling about this? How are you feeling about A Midsummer Night's Dream? And I lost it. I just cried and bawled and just, I can't do this, and it's not getting better. And he just said, okay. I said, I don't want to, I said, my heart is still in this. I still want to be on the stage. I still want to be performing, but I'm not getting any better trying to get healthy and perform in this pressured environment at the same time. It just was not working. So I said, I would very much like to end my contract when it ends and just not renew it for the following season and leave the company, go focus on my health, go get better, and then try and perform. Because being in that pressured of a situation and trying to deal with hypothyroidism, it does not work. It just was not good. So we went through this whole thing, and he said, I knew you were smart. And so that's when I left the company to go get better. You all know the story from there. But I went through 6 different doctors, and everyone but one looked at me and said, you don't look fat. You look fine. Because for a normal person, I looked fine. But all in all, I gained 35 pounds. And on a ballerina, that looks, you're overweight. 35 pounds is a lot of weight. But even because I'm so small, I'm very small boned, that I looked normal compared to everybody else. However, I still looked odd. My neck was thick. I had like a fat roll around my stomach. My shoulders looked huge and humped, and I had like this swollen type neck, because that's where the thyroid is, even though the blood work looked fine. So I knew something wasn't right. So I went to finally the doctor that I have now, who is a dear family friend of mine. His daughter is one of my best friends, and he said, you know what, we're going to ignore the blood work and we are going to try and figure this out. And I was on the absolute highest dose of medication for your thyroid that you could get, and it still wasn't working. I mean, that's the kind of dose where people who don't have a thyroid take. I still had mine and it wasn't working. So, you know, 2.5 years have now gone by, and he said, you know, you could have a condition called Hashimoto's, which is something that many of you might suffer from, whereby your body attacks your thyroid. So no matter how much medication you give it, it doesn't work. And yet it reads on the blood work panel that it's fine. What happens is not only is your body attacking the thyroid, the body is attacking the medication. So while the blood work looks good because it's in your system, it doesn't work. So he said, let me put you on this second medication called 𝐕𝐤𝐴, and I'm going to put it right here, 𝐕𝐤𝐴. If you guys are suffering from this and everything looks good but it's not, ask your doctor about 𝐕𝐤𝐴. What the 𝐕𝐤𝐴 did for me was convert the Synthroid, which is the other medication I was on, into something my body could use. So it didn't attack it anymore. And the minute I started taking the second medication, things started getting better. My hair stopped falling out. My weight started to slowly come off. I had more energy. I wasn't depressed anymore, just with one teeny tiny little change, that particular drug. Because no matter how much of the first one I was giving it, it wasn't working. That still took a very long time to regulate. That was still probably 1.5 years of regulation. It's been about 4 years now that it's finally, as of like 3-4 months ago, everything is good. Because I'm on the second medication, because I'm eating right, which I'll get to in a minute, things have started looking really, really good. Weight's coming off, strength's coming back. I didn't know how weak I was until now. My muscles had disintegrated, and now I can do things that I couldn't do before, even though I'm still not quite at the weight I want to be and not up to full speed yet. But it's amazing how just one little thing can fix you. And a lot of people thought I was making this up. You know, a lot of people thought, oh, she's just having a weight problem and she's using her thyroid to... No, it was absolutely real. People who have this, who suffer from it, it is absolutely real. It is a nightmare. It is miserable because it's not something you can see. It's not an injury. It's not like, oh, she has a broken foot. Oh, she has this. Oh, she has whatever. You cannot visually see it. You just know something is wrong. And so a lot of people thought I was making it up. They really did, but it is absolutely real, and it affects everything. So as of about 3 or 4 months ago, maybe 5, things are great. I am losing weight. My hair is coming back. It's still a little thin on the end, but it's thick to a point. It has stopped falling out. You guys seen pictures of me and dancing a little bit on Instagram. I put me doing 𝘬𝘮𝑗 the other day that I really couldn't do for the last however long. So things are really good. So if you're struggling from this, please ask your doctor about 𝐕𝐤𝐴 and Synthroid. 2 of them together, I'm telling you, that's the only thing that worked for me. Until I was on that second drug, that was it. The other thing that was the problem is I got so depressed because, you know, your body, you're looking in the mirror and you're thinking, that's not me. You're putting on weight so rapidly. You're putting on, your hair is falling out, you're depressed, you can't dance, you just want to hide. I was so miserable. And until I was diagnosed, people thought I was given so much grief for it. And then once I said, well, I have hypothyroidism, they're like, oh, okay. That was really hard. It was like, it justified the fact that I had put on weight. You know, so that was really, really difficult. So people who are going through this, it's so depressing. It is so disheartening to see your body literally changing before your eyes, being out of control before your eyes, and you can't do anything about it. So if you're suffering from this, please ask your doctor about 𝐕𝐤𝐴. It is the only thing that worked for me. Until I went on it, there was no change whatsoever. I might as well not have been taking any medication at all. So ask your doctor about 𝐕𝐤𝐴. The other really, really important thing is your food. Avoid soy like the plague. The soy affects not only your thyroid, but it also affects the medication. It counteracts the effects. And soy is hidden in everything. Even something like crackers or cereal or a sauce or something that you might not know it's in there, it's in there. So really read the labels. Avoid soy like the plague. I'm telling you, it will make a huge, huge difference. Also, I advise you, if you're trying to lose weight, avoid soy. There was an article about Jessica Chastain, who was in the movie The Help, and she had to put on 20, 30, 40 pounds. And she did it by drinking soy milkshakes. So that should tell you something right there. That's all she did differently, was eat a bunch of soy, and she put on weight. She looked puffy. So I advise you all, if you're trying to lose weight, avoid soy, especially if you have a thyroid problem, avoid soy, like the plague. The other thing you have to watch out for are some vegetables. Broccoli, spinach, kale, cauliflower, all these things that you think would be good for you have a compound in them. They're called cruciferous vegetables or cruciferous vegetables. There's a term right here. I don't know how to say it. There's some compound in them that also counteracts the medication. Or sometimes there's a compound that affects your thyroid. So if you want to eat broccoli, cauliflower, spinach, kale, etc., leafy green type vegetables also, make sure you slightly cook them. Steaming them, really, it's good. It kills whatever compound is in them. So steam them, lightly saute them, something like that. Don't give them up, but make sure you're not eating them raw. Also, really, really odd, strawberries and peaches, make sure you limit those. There's also a compound in them that affects the thyroid. Not as much, but there is, you don't want to eat them consistently on a daily basis. And what's very, very interesting is when I was trying to get my weight off, like I told you all for the premiere of Peter's Ballet all those years ago, I was eating salads with broccoli and spinach, and then I was eating strawberries. I was eating literally the list of foods you're not supposed to eat. I was eating those foods to try and get the weight off, and it was making it worse. So strawberries and peaches, pine nuts, also watch your pine nuts. I will include a link below of the foods that you should avoid if you're having a thyroid issue in the box below, just because I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but there is a list. I will link it below. The main thing is soy, though. I cannot stress to you guys enough, please avoid soy if you are having a thyroid issue. The other thing that really is important, you all know this, is to keep exercising. It raises your endorphins. Your thyroid affects your hormones, which affects your mood. So exercise helps counterbalance that. For a very, very long time, I just stopped ballet completely. I stopped exercising. I just didn't want to be part of it anymore. And it was only when I went back that I started to at least feel better about myself. Even if I just didn't look in the mirror, just wore a bunch of clothes and just did my own thing in the corner, it really, really helps to keep the exercise going. Be careful though, like I said, sometimes your thyroid affects your muscles and your strength. So just do something light, but just keep the endorphins going. Even if you're not suffering from a thyroid issue, if you know somebody who is, my advice to you based on what I went through is just be a friend, be encouraging, be supportive. Do not criticize them for their weight. Do not criticize them for being tired or moody or whatnot, because it is such an internal illness and it makes you feel like the scum of the earth that when people would give me a hard time, it just made it 10 times worse. So just be encouraging, be a friend. Don't give them grief. Don't give them a hard time. They are really and truly having difficulty. So just, again, be as kind as you can. I advise you all, if you're suffering from this, try and not put yourself in any high pressure situation, because stress is a huge counteractor of your thyroid. Again, that thyroid affects your hormones, which affects your mood. And if you're stressed and you're holding stuff in and you're anxious, it's just going to fight it even more. So really, really try and get out of any pressure-filled situations if you can. I know it's hard. Or if you're in a high-pressure situation, really just try and take it one day at a time. Don't make a high anxiety issue because you're already so stressed about this that you're just going to make the problem worse. So that's why I said, I can't do this. I need to go get well. I need to just stop. So that is my full story, my full suggestion. Again, please, if you're suffering from this, ask your doctor about 𝐳 I've also included the food list below that you should avoid or at least monitor. And if you have a friend or a family member suffering from this, please, please, please be a friend to them. Please be kind to them. Don't give them a hard time. It's incredibly frustrating and incredibly hard. So I'm so sorry this video was up later than I wanted it to be today, but I love you all. Thank you so, so much for watching. We'll get back to the technique videos soon. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Tuesday. If you missed my latest vlog, you can click it to watch. Also click the subscribe button to subscribe, and please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Thanks again for watching, you guys.